A few things Lasell does well with promoting racial injustice is having the Donahue and allowing the Donahue to create a space for students of color to feel like they can be who they are on campus. Another thing that Lasell does is the bias incident reporting online. I think it's a great way to encourage students to not witness racial injustice and not say anything about it. However, there are a lot of things that needs to happen to continue to create a space on campus for racial justice. And the most important thing is education. Some employees and some peers or students, they don't understand what racial injustice is. They don't understand that it's not about equality, it's about equity. And because of that, racial injustice tends to take place, even if it's unintentional, with the staff, the faculty members, the students, campus police. And it's not that we're asking to be treated better than anyone else, but racial injustice is making note that we experience different things. We have a different reality of what the world is. And because of that, we need different approaches, basically to have everyone feel included and feel like they're not, there isn't injustice being formed against them. Because it is easy to feel like the odds are stacked against you, especially as a student of color. And when the teachers or professors don't understand that, they don't do anything to make us feel like we're in a space of learning. It's the same thing with our peers. You know, a majority of her peers grew up in predominantly white neighborhoods or attended predominantly white high schools, so they haven't been exposed to what students of color has to experience on a daily basis or what we go through in society. Therefore, they don't have an understanding of what's going on. And I think education is a large part of that. And I'm not sure how that could be implemented, but that is definitely a necessity to deal with racial injustice on campus.
Of MSU meetings, and at those meetings, we've had meaningful conversations about race and how that's perceived on college campuses, from anywhere from affirmative action to all the way to touching hair, and how that kind of plays into people's biases that may be underlying and which feed into microaggressions. So I think having those meaningful conversations have been key for me as a first year throughout this academic year, learning more than I did in my hometown, which was predominantly white. So I think that's been great for me in terms of the outside classroom piece. But I think LaSalle has a lot of work to do in terms of promoting racial justice within the curriculum. I think we do a great job of the knowledge perspectives that we offer here at LaSalle and how that integrates throughout our 4 years, coming from a first year to all the way to senior year, and how those are really interwoven throughout the curriculum. But I think we really need to hit the nail on the head in terms of racial justice within the curriculum, as I said, starting with first years, and perhaps that's woven into the first year seminar courses that we take. Or even, I know there's courses offered, but there might be electives and not part of the main curriculum. As I said, every major is different. I understand that, but I think what we could do better in terms of administration and curriculum is that it's really taught and talked about, which I think is key moving forward.
Before anybody watches this video, I just want to say that I was speaking from my heart, from the only identity that I can speak from as a white person. And so a lot of the things that I said are directed at my white friends, also my non-black friends, but particularly my white friends. So just keep that in mind when you're watching, but I'm sure it's also applicable to a lot of other identities. So thanks for watching, guys. You're awesome. My mom and I were having a really good conversation the other day about why younger generations and older generations are kind of on the same page that Black Lives Matter, but the conversation is so different. And I think my mom made a really good point in saying that her generation, she's 40, little 43, but 40, her generation was taught, don't talk about race. Like, saying that's a Black person, the word Black is like always whispered. It's like a bad word, because by acknowledging somebody's race, you're acknowledging that they're different from you. But you can't treat other people like they're white. You can't treat everybody you meet like they're you, because they're not, and their experience is so fundamentally different. Acknowledging that somebody is Black or acknowledging that someone is Latino, it doesn't put a spotlight on them, but it allows space for them to feel welcome. It's like in class when we start saying our pronouns. Even though I look like a woman, I'm a very feminine presenting woman, by saying, hi, my name's Anna and my pronouns are she, her. Even though it's probably assumed that my pronouns are she, her, it allows the trans or non-binary student in class to feel like, okay, it's not weird for me to say my pronouns. It doesn't draw everyone's attention to me. Making it a part of the conversation makes sure all parts of the conversation feel welcome. And I think that's really, really important for us to get comfortable with, is embracing, especially for older generations, embracing that discomfort and that willingness to relearn something that you grew up believing is wrong or bad, and doing it as gracefully as you can, and being forgiving with yourself when you're not, but also being willing to have those conversations with people of saying, I messed up by, I thought by, when we were talking about slavery, by asking my Black student in the class about their opinion, I thought that I was bringing that to the table and making that a part of the conversation and making them feel welcome, but really that makes them feel targeted. The best thing that you can do when you're unsure is talk about it. Maybe not talk about it to the student, or if you have a question about the Black community, maybe don't go to a Black person, because that might make them feel like they're the spokesperson for their community, but engage in all of the resources that we have here. Talk to people that work at the Donahue Institute. We're right here. Google it, read about it, YouTube it. There's so many ways that we can access as white people, or not a person of color. There's so many ways that we can work with this, and not in a way that's not taxing for our friends and family of color. From a white perspective, I think the way that the school has acknowledged things that have come up, whether it was the racial conversations several years ago or the racial conversations that we're hearing about now, I think Lasell's done a really good job stepping up to the plate. The emails that we get from President Alexander seem very heartfelt, and it's lovely to join in on these calls when we can, and to see 75, 85 faculty and staff members joining on in the summer and really engaging in those conversations. That's lovely, and that's something that Lasell does so well, but it has nothing to do with Lasell. It has to do with who our faculty and staff are as people. They're people that are willing to learn and step out of their comfort zone, particularly step way out of their comfort zone in some cases, and I think that's beautiful, and that's a culture that we should continue to grow at Lasell, is this willingness to be uncomfortable. So